First-person shooters as a multiplayer genre really became popular with games like Unreal Tournament and Quake. These old shooters act as a yardstick to show how much video games have moved on since that point in time. Nowadays, games are all tactical action FPS, which is so far removed from games like Quake, and one thing that all these tactical games have in common is speed, or the lack of it. I love arena shooters, but since I wasn't born 30 years ago, I've only played the newer ones like Hyperscape, Quake Champions, and Unreal Tournament 2016, which by the way is a great game for very low end systems. One thing I've noticed is that I'm always thinking and I'm always doing something fun, and everything feels like it would belong in a highlight reel, even though they're terrible. Games like Valorant, CSGO, and even something fast paced like Apex Legends don't have that. Sure, they have their moments, but those moments were the gameplay in Unreal Tournament. Every minute was frantic and fast paced with players jumping all over the arena. Games nowadays are slow. They do require thinking, but even that is slower. In Unreal Tournament or Doom Eternal, you will be making decisions like you would in Valorant, except at a smaller time scale. You're making them while moving at what feels like Mark 10. And I want to look at some of the reasons I believe most popular FPS games have slowed down. Controllers. Consoles are one of the most popular platforms to play video games, and FPS games are a popular genre. But FPS games, especially arena shooters like Quake, were not made for controllers. You see, controllers are inherently different from a mouse. A mouse has a large surface to utilize, but an analog stick is fixed and has like 2 square centimeters of area. This means that I'm always trading something with a controller. I can either flick or I can track, but not both. At least not very well. If you have a high sensitivity for flicking, it's impossible to track unless you can make minute adjustments. And if you have a lower sensitivity, you don't have the speed to flick larger distances. Whereas you could do both with a mouse, and I think with consoles becoming more popular, games have slowed down due to developers having to work around aiming and how controllers are just not the best way to experience FPS games. They're better suited to more arcade games and racing games, in my opinion. Skill based matchmaking, or SBMM, is a controversial topic. People who hate it absolutely hate it, and people who love it absolutely love it, even if it screws up. The concept is that it matches up people with similar skills, which it decides from a range of factors such as kill death ratio, scope per minute, etc. One argument for this is from the new player's perspective. They do not have to worry about being matched with better players and can instead just play in their own bubble with fellow bad players, which is nice. It makes it more fun for players that may not be good enough or could not be good enough, may it be a disability or just not enough time to grind and get good. The other argument is from pros, who are now forced to play with other great players, which makes it sweatier and more stressful. But I can't really vouch for it seeing as I'm not a great player, but one thing I can vouch for is the average experience. Being an extremely average person, I can say that SBMM is okay. I usually get shuffled between good and bad players with occasional matches of similar players, and my experience with it is good in some games like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, but much worse in games like Apex Legends, where I would regularly get matched with much higher skill players with stats like 9,764 kills and 3,176 wins, while me and my squad maybe had like 7 kills altogether. One thing that cannot be refuted though is the fact that it works for most of the population. A lot of games are moving in the direction of some form of matchmaking manipulation, which I think might be important, especially for the casual market, as players who do not have time to get good and defeat pros do not have to worry about it and can just have fun. The perfect SBMM, in my opinion, is one that is transparent, like Rocket League. Rocket League shows you your matchmaking rank, so you can understand why you've been matched with players you think are outside your skill level and don't have to do tests with statistics like some COD YouTubers had to do to test SBMM in Modern Warfare. But I like this. What does it have to do with arena shooters? Skill cap. Arena shooters are equal. Everyone starts on a level playing field, and the only difference between players is their level of skill, which is in stark contrast to most games like Call of Duty, where you have 30 different weapons and each one is the best in one specific category. And every time you die, you can always kind of blame the other person. You can just blame their weapon. He was just at 50 meters away. I just didn't have a good enough weapon. And this is kind of true for almost all games nowadays. Whereas in Unreal Tournament, if you died, it was your fault. You didn't get to the weapon in time, you didn't aim properly, you didn't switch to the right weapon, and that's yours.
Issue, not my problem.
Now, there's actually a reason why Call of Duty and other games have so many different weapons.
It's so that players who are bad can still kind of succeed. I mean, you don't have to be the best to use a light machine gun. You can just, spray and pray. I mean, you won't be as good as a good player with a better weapon like an SMG, but you can still get kills. And that's kind of the reasoning behind these weapons, is that everybody gets a chance to win. Arena shooters aren't like that. Since everybody is equal, the only real difference is your skill. So this makes for a new player experience as something like Dark Souls. You're put into a world where everything wants to kill you, and you just have to learn, how to not die and hopefully even kill other things. Games like Call of Duty are easy to learn and hard to master. Arena shooters are also kind of the same. You can easily learn how to move, shoot, aim, switch weapons and stuff. But it's old, and because it's old, people have a natural tendency to become efficient, to optimize it, and because of that the skill cap has become much higher, and the skill floor has also become much higher for multiplayer games. Though you can play perfectly fine with bots at a lower skill level, if you want to actually play in multiplayer with other players, you're gonna have to be much better. So I talked about how FPS games have slowed down and how arena shooters are not really popular anymore and what changes would have to be made to bring it back from the dead. In the next video, I'll talk about one failure and one success of the arena shooter genre. And subscribe or keep this tab open in your computer for the next 2 weeks until I upload the next video.